Something strange about the howling outside made me uneasy. I couldn't discern what animal was capable of such a loathsome, pitiful wailing. Nor could I distinguish from which direction it came. My ears fell prey to the beguiling trickery of the droning winds, and at times the sound seemed to be all around me. What disturbed me most was the eerie familiarity of those forlorn cries. Something buried beneath the clamor of the approaching storm haunted me, but I pushed it to the periphery of my awareness, for other concerns weighed heavily on my mind. I stared out the window, watching the barren autumn trees battling to stay erect against the angry force of the assaulting winds. Their naked limbs flailed frantically as they struggled to remain erect in the midst of the onslaught. I was startled by the initial droplets of rain splashing violently against the window pane. But what I saw wasn't water. What I saw was blood. The same splatters of blood I had seen in my head 1,000 times while listening to his gruesome tales. "How did you come to be the monster you are?" I asked him in one of our final conversations. "We all have our demons, my friend," he replied. "You have yours, and I have mine. We are not so different, you and I. I am nothing like you. Oh, on the contrary, you killed your wife, remember?" "I didn't kill her. It was an accident." "My dear friend, there are no accidents. Surely you won't try to deny now what you revealed to me when first we spoke. You admitted freely that you found no sorrow in her demise, and in fact, that you even wished her dead. It's all right. I don't blame you for your murderous hatred, and neither would any man worth his salt." There was a long pause before he continued, as if he were waiting for me to refute what was just said. For some reason unknown to me, I didn't. I just sat there dumbfounded until he broke the awkward silence. "Do you really want to know what it was that forced my hand to murder?" "Yes," I replied. And again there was a pause, like he was collecting himself. "I too once foolishly gave my heart to a woman as you did. I stood in front of her God and her family, and I pledged my undying love and loyalty. I slipped a gold ring on her finger as a symbol of that love, and I swore to honor and cherish her till death do us part, and she promised these same things to me in return. I was an honorable and faithful husband. Never once did I stray from my vows. I worked hard to give her everything she wanted. And do you know how she repaid me while I spent those long hours working to give her a better life? She invited another man into my house, into the sanctity of my bed, the same bed where we slept and consummated our marriage. The same sheets I wrapped around my weary body after a hard day of work were soiled with the sweat of another man's passion. The same lips that pledged eternal loyalty to me were tainted by another's sinful touch. Then she had the audacity to lay that foul, contaminated mouth upon mine. I am no stranger to the pain and suffering caused by a woman's betrayal, my friend. I have endured the same humiliation as you. I just chose to confront it like a man, rather than cowering and holding it inside. It was at that moment the demons found me, and they wouldn't give me peace until they were appeased." Again, there was a significant pause before he continued. "I decided to take her for a little ride." I waited for him to elaborate further on his method, but only silence ensued. This wasn't like him. Cain was always so enthusiastic and meticulous in his descriptions, and he was seldom at a loss for words. This was a very traumatic memory for him. From his reluctance to continue, it was clear that he still wasn't over the pain of his wife's betrayal. For one brief moment, I pitied him. "What do you mean you took her for a ride?" I finally ventured to ask. "I drove her to a little place I knew, out in the middle of nowhere," he said. I can still see the smug look on her face as I explained my knowledge of her betrayal. She didn't even deny the accusation, and she showed no remorse or shame for her unforgivable actions. At one point during the confrontation, she actually laughed at me. I'm sure you can imagine my angst. This wanton whore had disgraced my honor and then laughed in my face as I expressed the pain and torment I suffered at discovering her adultery. I did attempt to control the mounting rage. However, I could bear no more of her whimsical amusement at my pain. The mirth she displayed at my suffering was like pouring salt in the wounds. Even to this day, I can feel the sting as her cackling laughter echoes in my mind. The demons had spoken. In that moment, I knew she must be punished. The first blow was invigorating. I brought my fist downward against her cheek, hard, nearly knocking her unconscious. Her laughter stopped immediately, but my rage had yet to subside. The second blow was better than the first, but I still wasn't sated. I began pummeling her repeatedly, expelling my rage and frustration with every blow, intoxicated by the feel of her delicate bones crushing under the force of my fist. But it wasn't enough. How could I possibly make her feel the humiliation she so willingly visited upon me? How does one translate the unimaginable suffering of the soul caused by such a betrayal into physical terms? Her head bobbed awkwardly against the headrest, and she struggled to remain conscious. Her body battered and broken, and her face bruised and bloodied, did little to comfort me. I reached into the console for the hunting knife I kept for protection. I grabbed a handful of her blood-matted hair and pulled her head back. Her pulse thumped weakly beneath the flesh of her slender neck. I made sure she could see the razor-sharp edge coming towards her, and with one swift movement, I slit her throat. I remember the ecstasy I felt when the blade sliced cleanly into the flesh and opened her jugular. I remember the euphoria that overcame me as the warm rivulets of blood ejaculated forth with every beat of her black, dying heart. I rejoiced in her gurgled pleas for help, and watched with pleasure as the gushing streams turned to a trickle. I left her there to rot like the pig she was. I was reborn, my friend. She made me what I am today, and I swear I will never again be the victim of a woman's treachery.